What's up, guys? Thanks for listening. Back with another episode of our Cryptid Central, where we talk about cryptids, urban legends, creatures of mythology, basically a wide array of different things. But today we're going to be focusing in on the Dogman, which is a pretty contentious creature, and it's not super well defined, and we'll just get into it and we'll kind of explain what it is, and we'll go from there. So the Dogman is typically a bipedal canid looking creature that looks kind of like sometimes you hear wolf, coyote, fox,
it varies,
dog,
I guess.
but canine looking, and usually is, like I said, bipedal. From what I've heard, most of the descriptions are pretty similar. Human-like hands, dog or wolf-like feet, so the paws.
Pretty close to a stereotypical werewolf.
Yeah, pretty close to a werewolf, but it seems like it always has really matted and rough hair. It seems like it usually looks a little more human than a werewolf.
Yeah. That's kind of what I gathered.
So yeah, the Dogman sightings and stories have a lot of similarities with werewolves, skinwalkers. So they're kind of in a gray area. Like, I don't know if, like, some of them. Let's say, I'll jump ahead real quick. 'Cause normally we do this at the end of the episode, but this is kind of like a weird one. So I'm not going to say whether or not I believe the Dogman is there or not, but say werewolves exist or skinwalkers exist, a Dogman could be misidentified as either of those. So someone seeing this could be seeing one of those two entities instead, right. Or it could be an entirely separate thing. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell based off stories whether those three things are different. It kind of like depends. I think Skinwalker is a little different than the other two.
Yeah, are definitely different, I think.
But there's a lot of similarities, and like they're in a lot. Dogmen are found in regions where there's typically a lot of Skinwalker sightings and a lot of Skinwalker lore around. So they definitely have some connection. There's honestly a lot of sightings of Dogman. And like I said, it's kind of hard to distinguish it from a werewolf. I don't really know if they're necessarily different.
Well, I don't really know, but Dogmen, I don't know if you really hear about werewolf sightings all that often. Like, not that you hear about Dogmen sightings all the time, but you hear about, if you give a quick Google search, like, you get more accounts of that than a werewolf, so.
Which, like I said, it's kind of hard to distinguish the two.
Yeah, they're very similar.
You could probably make the argument that Dogman and werewolf are probably the same entity, or if not, like,
yeah,
very similar. I guess it would depend on what the etymology of that is, because like a werewolf is a human being that changes into a wolf under moonlight, but I don't necessarily think these sightings, the moon is never mentioned in really any of them.
No, yeah, I don't think it really has anything to do with it. But this Dogman, or Dogmen plural, because apparently there's multiple of them. This goes back to the 1800s, so this is a pretty old cryptid. I mean, in the grand scheme of old cryptids, not really.
I think it goes back farther than that. I mean,
it might.
There's indigenous folklore regarding these creatures.
Yeah, so that's very possible that it goes back further.
I don't think you could really put an age on it. Like, they're kind of predate written record. So I think that does well in boding whether these things are actually out there. I mean, if something predates written record, there's plenty of accounts, historical and otherwise. I mean, and like you alluded to, there's settlers that have seen this thing. I mean, we've kind of indirectly talked about them before, actually. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
I don't remember.
So when we talked about Nahanni Valley, aka Headless Valley, in Canada. There's stories of indigenous people there that talked about creatures like this, and that's like one of the big myths about Nahanni National Forest. So, and we didn't go into Dogman when we talked about that, but that is part of the lore. It's just that place is so crazy that we didn't even have to mention fucking Dogman.
Yeah, I mean,
there's so much shit going on there.
Also, like, something really interesting I heard about the Dogman is apparently it appears in, like, this isn't a strict, like, guaranteed thing, but apparently it appears in 10-year cycles, and specifically years that end in 7. So like 2007, 2017, and like 2027. But it can appear outside of that. But like it's like most seen on those time periods. Apparently, I don't know how far that goes back. Like I don't know how, like who caught on to that, if that is the case. Maybe that goes way back to the tribal days. I don't know, but yeah, apparently it's like kind of has some sort of a pattern, and I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So what is one thing that we kind of glanced over its appearance? You know, it's typically like a bipedal canid, and one thing that is consistent throughout every single sighting is the smell of it. I don't know how many different instances you heard about the smell of it, but it
didn't hear about that.
smells. Yeah, it smells putrid.
And apparently it has, it does make noise and howls like a like a dog or wolf would, but it sounds more human than, I mean naturally, but it sounds more human than canine. And that to me sounds fucking scary. Some like hybrid creature like that howling, like I don't know, that it's just some reason that bothers me.
Yeah, I can think of at least 4 different stories that recount instances of Dogman off the top of my head. I don't know how many you have, but
I have one, and that's the guy's story. That's the only specific one I have.
Okay, I can. Do you want me to tell some of these just so we kind of have a couple of sightings? So, one of them was a story that I heard where it was. I want to say it was in Washington, in like a forest town, and it was a guy who was driving late at night on back forest roads and ended up seeing this creature in the road, accidentally hitting it, and long story short, ends up totaling his car, things chasing him, and he ends up hiding out in the woods and running and ran through the woods until daylight, and kind of just got to his house, and thing followed it to his house, and he ended up having scratches on his door. It was like slamming against the side of his house. I think it was a woman, I believe, but she just kind of recounted thing just like slamming up against her house, like just ramming it, and I guess like hit a metal roof, and you could just hear the psh, like the ting of the metal roof shaking from the thing hitting the house.
Jeez.
And it pretty much tracking her, and I believe she had to move because after that incident she was pretty much afraid to be in that house anymore, so she ended up moving, and then
I can imagine
never really updated after that. Another one is from Wisconsin, and it was a story of a girl who I guess parents just moved into a house that had like, I don't know, 30 acres of forest behind it. It might have been a little bit more, but there was like a creek. She was basically dog sitting for her parents. Had been there a couple times. They'd go on trails, and the dog started freaking out one of the days, like third day that she was there. Long story short, she ends up seeing something. She kept hearing stuff at night, hearing stuff that sounded like human cries. Ends up letting the dogs out. Dogs run back in. She ends up seeing this thing. Ends up going, or she ended up smelling something, I don't think she saw it originally. And then the next night, they went hiking because she was hiking through the woods with the dogs, and ended up being out a little too late, and ended up seeing this creature, and it ended up terrorizing her for pretty much a week.
Jeez.
Of like just dogs going crazy every single night. I think one of the dogs actually got hurt from it, and she was pretty much terrified. And I'm not sure if I've heard any cases where it's been seen during the day.
Yeah, I haven't heard any cases in particular that were during the day, actually. So I wanted to talk about one encounter. It's more than a sighting, of this guy named Joe Barger. Hopefully, I'm saying his name right. So his story with this Dogman is pretty much, I wouldn't say viral, but it's probably one of the more popular, more talked about stories. And I'm not going to spend the whole video talking about that, but so I think he hit the creature like with a truck.
No, so I think what happened was he saw this creature. He was in his truck. It was running alongside his truck, trying to get in. He was freaking out, and he ended up shooting the creature.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he shot it
and killing it because he shot it in the head at point blank range, allegedly. And
he like came back with the truck to make sure it was dead or something like that.
And
then
it was a government vehicle with government plates checking on where it was, and they said, "Oh, we saw bears picking at something."
Yeah.
And this guy said that the FBI or the CIA, some intelligence agency, actually questioned him and told him to stop talking about it, and threatened to ruin his life.
Yeah, quite literally. I mean, and you could say that sounds like a creepypasta, but
it sounds like something the government would do. So
yeah, I mean, the guy seems genuine. I must say, and I don't know what to believe, but he seems like a genuine guy. Dude's like pretty old. I don't see what reason he has to lie to the whole world. So I don't know, but yeah, terrifying story. And apparently the thing is, like, he said the thing's really tall, like 7 feet tall or something like that, really tall thing. And he said like he sensed that the thing was intelligent. And you're probably like, you can't tell if something's intelligent just by looking at it, right? But like, you can kind of see in something's eyes, I think. Looking at a human and looking at like a fucking dog is different, of course. You kind of can sense the intelligence behind someone in a way, I think. So he said he got that vibe from it, and that's kind of scary because I don't hear anyone talk about the thing's intelligence. I don't think anyone really knows.
I've heard people say that it seems intelligent. So here's what's crazy about it. So if you were to search Dogman and just search Dogman legend, first thing that would pop up is Michigan. I've heard stories of it being seen in Ohio, in multiple different parts of Ohio, from the Hawking Hills to like central Ohio to northern Ohio. Obviously, the second story I spoke about was in Wisconsin. The first one was in Washington. Do you know where that guy who shot it, where he was located?
He was in Michigan. He was in Michigan.
He was in Michigan?
Yeah, I believe so.
It's pretty much seen throughout the United States.
Yeah, I guess Michigan's just like, maybe that's like a hot spot or something, but it's certainly not the only place it's seen at.
It's also been seen in Tennessee. It's pretty much been seen. I just pulled up a map. So it has been seen in every state but North and South Dakota. And here's the thing is there probably would be sightings in North and South Dakota, just nobody lives there.
Yeah, that's probably, I mean, that could be it.
And there's no sightings shown in Utah. But every state besides that has a bunch, and There is a bunch in Wisconsin, Ohio, and Michigan, and there's actually even some close to where I live, apparently.
That's comforting.
I'm gonna look. Let's see if some pretty close to you too.
Oh shit.
Near a state park near you.
Oh god.
So and it looks like New York has them. Yeah, I'm looking and it seems every state and Canada.
So this thing is cited semi-often at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of sightings, and like I said, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Utah are seemingly the only ones that don't have sightings. And if they're in every state, I would absolutely think they're in North Dakota and South Dakota.
Right, exactly. Why wouldn't they be?
Because there is massive national parks and national reserves there. I mean, like that's one of the most densely forested areas in America.
Right.
Maybe not Utah. I think Utah has like fair amount of desert and mountains, and I don't know all of Utah's geographics. This isn't just like a run-of-the-mill cryptid. I mean, this is on par with Bigfoot as far as sightings and kind of people saying they're seeing it. Like it's not just like people will see this every now and then. Like there's significant sightings.
Yeah. Complete stark difference to Mothman, which we covered in a previous video.
Yeah, I mean, there's literal websites that show you sightings of it. So
yeah, do you want to get into what we think it is / what we think of its legitimacy, if it's real, not real?
Yeah.
So according to the one guy's story, like the government was involved in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying his story is 100% true or anything, but I think that kind of makes sense that they would, they don't want people knowing that something like that is out there. I think that kind of makes sense, but the fact that it would be seen in so many places is kind of insane. Like, so I'm leaning more toward it being something. Like, people are definitely seeing something that's to that description. So a lot of similar accounts on almost everyone's part. So I mean, yeah, I don't really know what to think, honestly. What do you think?
Well, I hear a bunch of different things. I guess it depends on what iteration of it, because like a lot of them is supposedly like a spirit. Like in Native American folklore, it's a spirit, but like most things are spiritual in indigenous folklore.
Right.
So like, I don't know how we could really determine whether it's like what is spiritual. Like just because something is a spiritual doesn't mean it doesn't have a physical form, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really educated in that, so like I don't really have an opinion.
So I would think if something has a corporeal form, like it's real, so that's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
I don't think I think the government it could be like kind of how the SCP Foundation is and different things and all the different you have Reddit AMAs and supposedly different things that pop up that investigate the paranormal. I feel like I was just watching a show on HBO where it was like Wellington Paranormal, where it's literally like the New Zealand Police Department that deals with paranormal shit, and like they send the same two officers to deal with paranormal cases. Like it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for the government to have a department that deals with paranormal things, and it may not be that it is government sanctioned or like the government made these things or something. It is the government tries to cover up paranormal things' existence, and this just happens to be one that is
falls under
more
that.
widespread, and actually has more creatures of this nature than most things. So that could explain why the government was like, stop talking about this, because they're something that is out there and poses a threat to convention. And would I mean, if one of these was captured and we just had it on display and like it was discovered to be 100% authentic, I mean, how would people react to that? Like, everyone's scary stories of werewolves and shit like that would be true then, and we'll talk about werewolves in a separate video. But I mean, this isn't just America that this type of thing is seen. Like, if you're into Norse mythology or Germanic mythology, I mean, the story of werewolves and essentially dogmen, because I feel like the if we make a distinction, a werewolf is connected with the moon and the lunar cycles, whereas dogman is basically a werewolf without that restriction. I mean, would you say that's kind of accurate?
Yeah, that sounds to be pretty much exactly what it is.
So, I mean, there's, like, in Norse mythology, wolves are play a huge part, and kind of where I brought in skinwalkers with it. I mean, there's whole cults of wolves where, like, warriors would go on wolf skin and be able to change into wolves, or like a wolf form. So, that's kind of where the skinwalker mythos would play into that. But I don't know. I mean, there's so many movies. Like, this is mainstream culture. Look, think Teen Wolf, The Howling, American Werewolf in London. Like, I know the werewolf is kind of a little bit different, but I don't think it's different enough to kind of, like, I think you could lump them into media together to a certain extent.
For sure, yeah.
And it's kind of like a mainstream creature that is seen somewhat regularly. And there's, if you would want to listen to 3 days worth of audio of stories on that, where you're just listening to the stories all day, like for 10-15 hours, you could probably have 3 days worth of listening to stories. And that's just people that have talked about it. Think about how many people have probably seen it and don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if it's a dangerous creature, a lot of people go missing in national forests. We're planning on making a video on missing 411 and kind of the disappearances around national parks, but who's to say that this doesn't play into that? I mean, there's a lot of different things that play into forest areas, and I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of missing people that end up in forests and shit like that. Why is that? And they're not found. Obviously, if you came across something like that, you wouldn't be found.
Yeah. Yeah, most likely. I mean, in the one guy's story, he said he felt like he was going to die if he had
I mean, here's the thing. I've even I know I've told you this story, but I even have seen one, like, with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah, I remember. I think I remember you telling me that.
I'm pretty sure. Like, I saw one. Obviously, it's pretty crazy, but I saw one outside of my house once, and I was outside, just walking outside, and I see something in the street that looks like a bipedal wolf-like creature. And we didn't mention this in the stories, but in the stories, these things supposedly are able to jump 10 to 15 to 20 feet in the air. Like, these things can jump ridiculous heights. And I saw this thing jump into a tree, and from the tree jump and kind of like go on a roof and then just disappear out of sight. And I mean, I know what I saw. I was pretty young, but I wasn't that young. It's like, I know what I saw.
Yeah. I mean, also something like that sticks with you for sure, so
and like,
was it a particularly foresty area or anything, or?
No, I mean, I live in a neighborhood.
Right.
It happened outside of my house. So, like, but here's the thing: is there's deer that roam around here from time to time, because there is patches of forested area, and like something like that. I mean, I guess we don't understand it. Could it be a person that changes into this? Because then it would kind of be like a skinwalker type of thing. Is it a creature that is like that all of the time? Or like even a werewolf is essentially kind of like a skinwalker. It's a person that changes under moonlight. Like, yeah. I guess it would depend on whether I believe its existence would kind of depend on what the case is. Like, is it a creature that's like this all the time and it's just a creature that exists like this entirely? Or is it something that changes into that? Or like, most of the time these things are seen at night, and I saw it at night. So, you know, so I on this one, I would definitely say, like, I would err on the side that it is most definitely a real thing and terrifying.
Yeah, I definitely lean that direction.
I mean, this is one of those that there's so many different sightings, and doing kind of research and listening to a lot of different stories on this, like, we didn't get into half of the amount of sightings that there are. Like, there is a lot of media connected to this, as far as like storytelling and sightings and different run-ins with this thing. And I'm sure you will hear a lot of different variations. And it's like anything paranormal, this ends up kind of tying into a lot of things similar to this, which, like, most of these things seem somewhat connected. Like, when you have shit like this, weird things start happening around you, and I don't know if all those things just like kind of feed off one another. I don't really know if there's like an explanation for that or not, but yeah, a lot of sightings, and it seems like really highly centered in certain areas. So I don't know. I feel like there's something to that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, guys, this is Lucid Rain. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.